Welcome back to Path to Glory, the Warhammer Underworlds podcast that focuses on competitive gaming, player development, and community growth. This episode was made possible by our patrons, thanks to everyone who supports us. If you're interested in supporting the podcast monetarily, please check us out at patreon.com/pathtoglory. If that's not possible, totally okay. We still appreciate the listen and the ratings. This is Aman Khusro, and as always, I am joined by my primal co-host, Jonathan Davis.
Hello. How are you?
How's it going?
Good.
I am in fine spirits this afternoon. As you can see, rocking the Chelsea gear.
Oh.
And Chelsea beat Real Madrid 2-0. So we're going to the finals. For my UK friends out there and listeners, yes, you can support a British team despite the fact that you live in the United States. Because over here, soccer is not competitive. In fact, it's not even called by the right name. So,
How did you pick that team? Do you have any connections to that area?
I've got family in London.
Okay.
And my uncle, he's like, technically he's my cousin, but he's only like 5 years younger than my dad. So I call him uncle.
Yeah.
And my dad and him call each other, they treat each other like cousins. So he like grew up in England. He grew up in London specifically, and he's an Arsenal fan. And
Gotcha.
when I was a kid, I was a little shit, honestly. And so because I was like, "What's the team that you hate the most?" And he'd say Chelsea, and I was like, "All right, I'm a Chelsea fan." And I was like 8 or 9 at the time,
Yeah.
and then kind of stuck. And despite the fact that I like red more, which is Arsenal's colors, like as I was growing up, you would see players like Torres and Michael Ballack and all these players, and I just was like, this is really cool. And the team's very different now, but I do keep up with it. And I guess because I'm a Chelsea fan, my brothers are now Chelsea fans. So, and they're more into it than I am. Like
Yeah.
they'll wake up at like 3 a.m. to watch games and stuff, where I'm not that committed. I guess they also have their own schedule, so that's probably why they can do it. But regardless,
Yeah.
big
Cool.
fan. Glad that they won. Made some money along the way, so not too shabby.
Very nice.
How about you?
Doing good. Not much since we recorded the last one, so ready to get into some universals.
What, yesterday? Yeah, I guess not much
Yeah.
has happened. Okay. Well, as Jonathan has inclined, we will be covering the universals that come with Hedkrakka's Madmob. No news and no Patreon questions today. So we're going to just jump right into it. Keep in mind that you will, for our patrons, you will have an opportunity to win a free copy of Hedkrakka's Madmob. We are doing a contest. Essentially, you will have to submit a video of you and whomever else that you would like to include, giving us your best WA.
Yeah.
If you're not sure what that sounds like, you can check out yesterday's episode. I ended off with a WA of my own. It's probably the best WA I've ever done. I listened back to it again when editing, and I was like, I'm impressed.
You pretty much just yell the word "wog."
That's true.
That's how it works. Yep.
And if you want some inspiration, you can look up like Dawn of War, Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. Great game.
Yeah.
At least the first one and all its expansions. And you can watch some of those cutscenes and you can hear some wogs. So
Absolutely.
we'll be deciding that by the 15th. So you got 10 days to do it. And the reason we're only doing half the month is because we've got another warband in the second half of the month, and we got to do a contest for them as well. So.
Yeah, that is when they come out as well. So good
Is
timing there, I think. I think they should go up for pre-order on the 8th and release on the 15th.
Well, look at that. Quick math. Alrighty, well, let's go ahead and get started. There are, I believe, 30 cards. So we'll start with the objectives as always, and we will let you know what we think. So first up, Feast and Famine, a duel for 2 glory. Score this in the end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters are out of action, and 2 or more friendly fighters each have 3 or more hunger counters. What do you think?
So with all the hunger cards, this is basically only viable for vampires. I don't think it's awful for them, but I think having 3 hunger counters on 2 fighters can be a little bit difficult, but it may still be playable for them.
Yeah, completely agree that it's interesting to me that the best warband for this is the Crimson Court, and even they might not take it,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So
Two
I think
glory
that
is nice though. So.
it is, and there are some really interesting hunger passive builds that you can take,
Hmm.
but the problem is that like they're passive. They're trying to avoid engagement. I guess you could run two fighters up, try to do some damage,
Right.
but the benefit of playing an aggressive vampiric warband is that you have multiple threats, and if two of those attack actions miss or one of them miss, then this could be a hard to score. I think it's doable though, so
Yeah,
I'm not
I
going to
think if
write
you're
it
doing
off.
like an
But
aggro hunger build, there's something there maybe. I'm not sure if that's how people are going to play them. So nice to have the option, I guess.
yeah, yeah. Let's jump to the next one.
Yeah.
Fleeting Primacy. Surge Hybrid for 1 glory. Score this immediately after an activation if your warband holds 3 or more objectives, or your warband holds 2 or more objectives in enemy territory, and you have the Primacy token. What do you think?
Yeah. So this is an interesting one. I like it more than temporary victory. um,
Hmm.
I think three objectives. The first condition, I think three objectives for 1 glory is pretty reasonable. I like it better than hidden purpose. It's harder to do there. I think the secondary condition of having primacy and holding two in enemy territory is a lot harder because and you have also have to the primacy. Um, but I think it's a nice option to have, I guess. Um, I'm not sure if you'd take it in an aggressive warband though.
Yeah, it's really hard to hold 3 nowadays, especially with all that flip tech running around, and we get some more flip tech in this expansion as well.
Yeah,
Um, like Feed the Beast, Grave Hrothgorn just hard counters you, so there's nothing
yeah,
really you can
that's
do.
true.
Um, so that concept holds even more so because on the second condition, if you're trying to get in enemy territory, but even if you're a hold objective warband, I'm not sure. I think you may have just mentioned this. I'm not really sure, but you probably are trying to score underdog as well. So you're not most likely going to get primacy unless you could do like some proud runner shenanigans. But it's an interesting
Right.
card. I think like if mischievous spirits, leaves the meta at some point, and feed the beast grave gets toned down or leaves, then I think this is a little bit more viable. But for now, I think it's a very okay card.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe if you were considering spending a restricted slot on temporary victory already, then maybe you take this instead because it's not restricted. But you're right that I think it's going to be a bit of a meta call. So
Yeah. Well, the next card here is Lion Wait. It's a hybrid for 2 glory. Score this in the end phase if 3 or more friendly hunters hold objectives, or 2 or more friendly fighters hold objectives, and each is a quarry. I really, really like this one.
yeah, I do too. What do you think of the first condition? That seems kind of hard to me.
Yeah, it's again the 3 or more. So it's essentially hold 3 with hunters. So like Grimwatch can probably do it.
Yeah,
Um, Seraphon can do it. The Starblood Stalkers. I think. I think again for comments made on fleeting primacy, um, and some conversations with people in the practice group, I just think like holding more than 2 is too difficult in this meta right now.
right.
Um, the second condition though is much stronger because especially if you're playing Seraphon, you've got Autopodal, who is a quarry
Mm-hmm.
innately. You can take cards like Cryptic Companion, Outrun Death, or like Hidden Presence.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this actually works really well with Cryptic Companion because it's essentially 3 glory if you can score this right.
Yeah.
So I think this is really cool, and I think you can see a lot of neat hunger cards coming in, or sorry, quarry cards coming into play in this set, which take the Seraphon, in my opinion, a warband that is on the cusp of being great to another level.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think that it also adds to the synergy that some people have already been doing with is it absolute stillness?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that and cryptic and this together is even more synergy. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
very cool, very cool. I
Yeah.
think we'll probably see some of that, mainly focused on the quarry condition. So
Yeah. I really, really like this card. Um,
yeah,
but just for
and
stalkers.
the nice thing is that you can have a charge token for this one, so it's probably
Correct. Yeah.
probably about as
So
difficult.
yeah, and an interesting thing is like this is probably really good for Harrows as well.
Yeah,
As
could
a
be.
hold two strategy.
I think it's going to depend on the upgrades that you want, but I think it's easier and easier to be a quarry nowadays, and outrun death
Well, yeah,
helps a lot too.
Cryptic
So
Companion, Strength of Terror, Outrun Death.
yeah, yeah.
Like that. That's really good. So interesting. Okay, well, let's go to the next one. Magic Morsel. Surge Duel for 1 glory. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action that took an enemy fighter out of action. If the friendly fighter has 1 or more hunger counters and the enemy fighter is a wizard or has 2 or more upgrades. What do you think?
I think this one's a little bit too difficult. Even if we talk about the Crimson Court and we assume that you're just always going to have a hunger counter, which isn't actually the case, I still think a wizard or 2 or more upgrades is a little bit too hard. Um, so I think I would skip this one.
Yeah, I think if you really want to like tap into Crimson Court, scoring multiple surges off each attack, then this could be maybe something you can squeeze in.
Yeah,
Um, but because really, there are surges that give you a glory for killing an enemy fighter with 2 or more upgrades,
right.
right? So, but
I
then again, that is objectively better than this card
Yeah,
because this also ensures the hunger counter. So maybe you just take that instead.
I think I look at this one about as being about as difficult as killing an enemy leader, and that's still ignoring the first part of it.
Yeah,
So I just think it's a little bit too hard to do.
I think you're right. Okay. Moment of Glory. Surge Duel for 1 glory. Lots of surges in this set. Um, score this immediately after an activation if there are 3 or more surviving friendly fighters and each surviving friendly fighter is inspired. Thoughts?
This is a pretty interesting one. The first warband that this really sticks out for to me is Gits, because they all inspire together, except for
Mm-hmm.
Snurk, who you can just kind of inspire whenever you want, and usually you'll inspire him before everybody else anyway. Um, Although actually, I guess the squigs don't inspire, but maybe they just die for me right away. um, so I think it's
Well,
okay
you
for
just need
them.
3. You just need 3, right? So.
Oh, well, it says each surviving. So I believe you have to have at least 3,
Oh
and
yeah, the
everybody
whole
has to be
warband as well.
inspired.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So it's kind of interesting because you want it to be a large warband that also inspires universally pretty easily. So like you could play this with Harrows because you're pretty good at inspiring if you're aggressive, but you might not have 3 fighters all the time. Um, so I'm not really sure. It's interesting. I wonder who will end up seeing use of it.
I'm thinking of global inspires right now, and I think like Despoilers might be a good candidate. Um,
Yeah, but the problem
Grimwatch
with them
could.
is that sometimes they don't inspire at all. You know.
True, true. Grimwatch I think is a good candidate.
Mm,
Um,
that's possible. Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's like a if you're hurting for surges, this could be a surge for you if you're playing a warband with a global inspire. But even
Yeah.
like the Seraphon, you need Clacktrock inspires differently, so it's interesting.
Yeah. It's not too bad for them. I think they're probably pretty good at it. Um, Half the time he'll hit, and he'll if he doesn't hit in the first round, he'll probably hit in the second, or he'll just die, and then you should be able to inspire. So it's an interesting balance, I think. But we'll see. I mean, we've seen a lot of war bands with global inspires in the past, and I'm sure we'll see some in the future. So depending on what they have, this might be more or less viable.
Yeah, right on. Okay. Next card is Myriad Incantations. It's 1 glory. Score this in the end phase if there are more Gambit spells in your discard pile than each opponent's discard pile.
Yeah. Right now, I think if you take spells at all and you want a one glory end phase card, I think this is a good one.
Yeah, it's almost guaranteed if you're
Yeah.
playing any sort of magic synergy.
Yeah, as long as you have a spell card that you can play that round, then you're good to go. Because most
Yeah,
likely your opponent's not going to have one.
I saw a comment. So with someone describing this card, and they just put laughs in Cursebreaker,
Yeah.
and I think it's a very apt description. Um, Primal Display is the next card. It's a Surge Duel for 1 glory. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action if that attack action took the target out of action and you have the primacy token.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good one. Pretty good aggressive card. We were just talking about the orcs, and I think that it's pretty solid for them because
Yeah.
they're going to get primacy more often. And then anytime they do get a kill, they'll also get primacy. For everybody else, if you one-shot somebody, you should score this automatically because you got the kill and now you have primacy. But if you have primacy already and you kill somebody, regardless of how you kill them, you'll get it too. So it seems pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of aggressive strategies like Magore's, Crimson Court, Madmob, Crushes, Mollog, they like this card.
Yeah, it's a
It's a
lot
good
like
card.
Surge of Aggression um, if you're scoring it with attacks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
Primal Supremacy is the next one. It's a duel for 3 glory. Score this in the end phase if your warband holds 3 or more objectives and you have the primacy token. They made a harder supremacy.
Yeah. So the only reason you would play this if you already have Supremacy in your deck and you want to do it again.
Yeah.
um, which could be cool in a certain meta. I just don't think that's where we're at right now with things like Feed the Beastgrave and Mischievous Spirit and all the distractions and all that. It's just too hard to do.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Let's just jump to the next one. Show No Fear, 1 glory. Score this in the end phase if each surviving friendly fighter is a quarry. Just play against Hrothgorn, you're good.
Yeah, free against Rothcorn. Otherwise, it's just a lot of effort to mark everybody. I guess you could play Hunting Season, and I guess that would work, right?
Yeah, Lion Weight also helps with the quarry.
Yeah,
If you're playing against Hrothgorn, you just hold 2 objectives and you're chilling. You can
that's
get 2
true.
glory for Lion Weight.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe there's something there, but seems
I think
seems
I
a
think
little
I
bit
think
hard.
if you want to score Show No Fear, you got to take Hunting Season, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think it's worth taking Hunting Season for 1 glory. But again, maybe if you combo with Lion Weight and some other cards, maybe.
Yeah, if you have a quarry strategy happening where you're trying to get absolute stillness and lion weight, maybe you throw this in there as well. Maybe, but
Yeah.
it's weird because you'd also want to be a small warband so that if you did need to do it manually, you could. But I don't know. Yeah.
It's interesting. Um,
Yeah.
Last one is Wasteland. Score this in the end phase if there are no objective tokens in 1 or more player territories. Speaking of Feed the Beast Grave,
Yeah.
it's pretty solid for that strategy.
Yeah, I think it's a decent card that works towards that strategy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure if you take it. Maybe you do.
I think you take
Um,
in like Feed the Beast Grave, Hrothgorn, maybe.
yeah.
I think Seraphon are really good at playing Feed the Beast Grave as well.
Hmm.
So this could be something that is helping you continue to score for kind of doing the same thing over and over again. You're probably right in that maybe there's some better options because this is just 1 glory, but I think it's certainly something that can slot into that strategy.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I just think that sometimes if you don't have enough objective removal in the first round, this might brick, and then I don't think you keep it.
Yeah.
But after the second round, it's probably easy enough to score. So
Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
You're right. Okay, well that covers the objectives in the set. A mixed bag, I think, but
yeah,
certainly again, the overarching theme of this expansion is that they're all kind of doable. Except maybe Feast and Famine. But again, it's still kind of doable. So,
yeah.
Jonathan, do you have a favorite of the set?
I would say one I'm going to use first is probably Fleeting Primacy. Um, I think I'll be playing that one in a few decks probably.
Yeah,
I don't think
right
it's
on.
too hard to get to 3 every now and then. Um, so
Yeah. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing how that works out because I'm not as confident in that strategy at the moment, I think.
yeah.
Um, what I am confident in is holding 2 and some quarry tactics. So, Lion Wake may have revealed my hand earlier as I mentioned this, but I do think this is a very cool card. And I am looking forward to making it work because I think it does work.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll also see some primal display. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so yeah,
And Myriad Incantations is just auto scores for any
yeah,
wizard strategies around. So very cool. Very cool.
yeah. Well,
Do you want to
4 out of 12 isn't bad.
10, 4 out of
Or
10?
10, yeah, even better.
And actually, if you think about it, Moment of Glory or Wasteland isn't that bad either.
Yeah,
So, but
6
yeah,
out of
4
10.
out of 10 is
Yeah,
still pretty good, I think, honestly.
yeah, not bad. Okay, I guess we can go to the gambits. I have the first one as Claim to Domination. At the end of the next activation, the player with the highest number of surviving fighters in enemy territory gains the primacy token. So we've kind of seen this one before on objectives. Whoever holds the most objectives at the end of activation gets primacy. This is kind of an aggressive variant.
Yeah, I really like this with the Mad Mob, but
Mm-hmm.
really, it doesn't even have to be the Mad Mob. It's any warband that is seeking to be in enemy territory. So whether you're playing Crushes, Crimson Court, any warband that's trying to score clean kills or sorry, bold deeds, dominant display, show of force, etc.,
Mm-hmm.
really like this card because this can automatically score you Surge of Aggression, or tee you up for Awesome Predator, or in the Mad Bob's case, Inspire a Fighter.
Yeah.
Then you can and then activate some of your cards as well. So I think it's a great card. Um, it's another passive way of getting primacy. And one really cool thing is that if you know your opponent has Proud Runner, then you can play this card, and then they can Proud Runner, and even if they do the Proud Runner, if they have less fighters than you do in enemy territory, then you just get it right back at the end of the activation. So this is kind of like a foolproof plan against Proud Runner as well, which I like.
Hmm. Yeah, because I think Proud Runner is it Proud Runner a reaction? I forget.
Mm,
I'd have to check. But
I can
yeah,
look it up while
I
we
think in general it
keep
is pretty
talking.
solid. I like that if you use it in the um, like first activation, you can just charge in um, and basically you just get it for having one fighter in enemy territory. So that's kind of neat. Um,
Proud Runner is not a reaction. It says each time this fighter finishes a move action,
right.
gain the primacy token. But it
Yeah.
doesn't say after the activation. So you finish the action,
Yeah.
you get the primacy token, and then in theory, this card, which is called Claim to Domination, would steal it right back after.
That is cool. Yep. Yep. Very cool. Okay, well, the next one is Cunning Paths. Gambit, pick one, +1 move to friendly fighters in the next activation or in the next activation. Each time a friendly quarry moves into a hex that contains a feature token, flip that feature token. Interesting.
It's a very good card. I think I was talking to like Nick, one of our patrons and good friend of the show, and he and I were discussing that. Pretty sure you can like flip like 3 or 4 objectives in the first round, given the fact that there are so many flip cards now,
Oh,
including
yeah, if you
Cunning
take a lot
Paths.
of them.
And so like you just run in a hex with Autopodal, or you can outrun death into a hex, and then you flip it,
Yeah,
and then maybe score some surges or wasteland along the way. But this is really good for Feed the Beastgrave strategy. Um, the interesting thing is that you can flip it back too. So because it states feature token, doesn't stay objective.
right.
So if someone flips on you, you can flip it back. Maybe stop Feed the Beastgrave or get that surge or end phase objective scoring that you need.
Yeah, I do think that the quarry limitation is bad in some cases. Like, I don't know if Frothgorn wants this one because then he'd have to also be giving his people quarry. But I think that having Autopodal already have quarry um, does make this pretty good for the skinks. So yeah, that's interesting. And if
Yeah.
if you had a way to be able to move, like if you had the Grimwatch bats, the Harriers as a quarry, you could play this and then move through enemy fighters, any kind of flying uh, thing, and you could just steal the objectives right from people, which would be
Yeah,
pretty
that's actually
interesting.
really insane because then you can
Yeah.
outrun Death your bat, who then is now movement 8
Yeah.
if he's inspired. Maybe you can Spectral Wings on top of it, get him to 10. But even if you move
Yeah.
8, you can move through multiple hexes
Hmm.
and flip everything at once. It's kind of silly.
Yeah, you could probably do like three at once if they were close enough to where you were when you started. Yeah, that's funny.
Ever wanted to play Feed the Beastgrave Grimwatch? Well, now you can.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know if I think this is very good, but it's an interesting mechanic. You know.
I think this is yeah. So I will say I do think this is great for Seraphon, Starblood Stalkers,
Yeah, yeah. It could be
100%.
in that situation. Yeah. The next one is Fury Barbs. It's a trap. Reaction, play this after enemy fighter's move action. That fighter's attack actions have the Fury characteristic instead of their printed characteristic. This effect persists until the next activation. What do you think about that?
It's interesting. It's like it's more of like a like a defensive ploy.
Yeah,
Like I'll maybe take one dice away from your attack type of situation.
right.
Do I think it's worth a gambit? Probably not. Um, and
Yeah,
then also a lot of warbands nowadays have like Fury fighters, so often you're not going to be getting much value off of it. I do think like when Hrothgorn runs up with like four smash or three smash, playing this doesn't really change the outcome much. It does
yeah,
make the attack less accurate, but then at that point, the more dice you roll, the higher propensity to roll a crit. So
yeah. That's true. I think it's a decent defensive ability. I like that it's a reaction, so you get to um, play it when you are afraid of an attack working, and they can't get around it by not attacking or something like that, like some of the other defensive gambits. But and maybe it has a place if you're just looking for reaction cards, but that's probably a stretch. So the next one is Heated Instinct. Choose one friendly fighter, push the chosen fighter one hex, or up to two hexes if that fighter is a quarry. I like that one.
yeah, and this is kind of why I'm so high on Lion Weight
Mm-hmm.
because this card is bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just having another sidestep in general is good for objective play.
Yeah,
And then the synergy with quarry stuff makes this really nice. Gets away from a restless prize. Um, a lot of things you can do with this, I think.
yeah, 100%. And the cool thing is that this is a great aggro card as well because again, it's just another sidestep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. The next one is Horrific Aspect. It is a spell. Goes off on a focus. If cast, in the next activation, enemy fighters cannot end a move action adjacent to the caster. It's kind of a cool effect.
Yeah, so I think this is a really good card if you're trying to score off stacking objective or upgrades on a fighter. So if
Yeah.
you know that like so nowadays most warbands that are popular are range one, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. A lot
I
of
would
them
say
are.
a lot of them, right? So they have to charge adjacent to you. They can't if you play this card. So you can play this in like the final activation of a game. Cast this, and your fighter is effectively safe, whether they're playing Avatar or Lost Pages. Another cool thing is that you can actually delay an attack, right? Even if you're not
Mm-hmm.
playing those strategies, if you're playing like a wizard, a spellcaster, or you can force a ranged attack, which might not be something that your opponent maybe wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like the applications behind this card in terms of its ability to protect your fighter. Um, I do
Yeah.
think it's very niche though.
Yeah. It's funny that 75% on a focus on a level 2 wizard is just not reliable enough.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even talk about that, which
Yeah.
I never roll a focus on two die.
Yeah, it's
I'll
strange.
always roll it on an empower though.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, the next one is Predatory Impulse. Choose one friendly fighter, and the next activation, the fighter has +1 move, and that fighter's range 1 attack actions have Ensnare. What do you think about that?
I don't really care for it. I think Outrun Death, Spectral Wings, better.
Yeah, I think the only situation where you think about this one is if you're already at 5 move, and then you can get to 6, and then you also have Ensnare. So, like, maybe Skaven, maybe Grimwatch. Um, that's about it, though.
That's actually not a bad point.
Yeah.
It's not a bad point at all. Um,
The next one is Primal Power. You can reroll one dice in your warband's next casting roll. In addition, if you have the primacy token, roll one extra dice in that roll. This effect persists until your warband's next attempt to cast a spell. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you again are really big on casting stuff.
Hmm.
Um, this does work on, I guess, an attack because you're casting a spell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
If you have primacy, this is a really good way to increase your accuracy on that attack. And it also does make the spell a lot more likely to go off. So um, I just don't know if there's that many magic decks right now. So,
no,
or if this
I
would be
mean, I
worth a
guess
play spot. So,
the only people I think this is worth is Cursebreaker, Vortimus, and maybe even Hedkrakka because
yeah.
you can roll like a 3 focus, 1 reroll, 3 damage headbutt attack.
Yeah, I like it for that, but I feel like I would also want to have other spells in the deck, and I don't know if I need other spells in the deck right now. So
Yeah,
interesting.
I think the only
Uh,
one maybe worth considering right now is Hunting Bolt
yeah, that one's pretty
because it
good.
just deals 2 damage
Yeah,
or
and if there's
one.
going to be more quarry stuff around, then that card just gets better.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of the
it
few
actually is the
that's
best way to kill Autopottle.
yeah, that's
It's the
true.
most it's the most efficient way to kill Autopottle.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
don't have to
that's
worry
true.
about that 3 dodge.
Yeah, it might be a meta call depending on how good the Starblood Stalkers are.
Yeah.
Um, okay, the next one is Savage Contest. It says the rules are simple. Last fighter standing. Reaction. Play this after a friendly hunter or quarry successful range 1 or 2 attack action if their target is a hunter or quarry. Deal 1 damage to the target.
So it's
So,
essentially like a trap.
yeah, yeah, basically. And it would stack with Snare, which is nice. Um,
It does snack with stare. That is nice.
um,
Come to me, my wild hunt.
yeah. I think I like it. The I guess the biggest I guess basically you would play this in a warband where you already have hunters, um,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe a warband where you have hunters and quarry, like the Starblood Stalkers or Dread Pageant. Um, and then the problem would be trying to find another hunter or quarry to attack, which I think is a little bit hard, um, but not undoable. It's not impossible right now.
Yeah.
So
I mean, lazy answer is that like meta dependent for
yeah.
sure, but I think we have hunting season.
Hmm.
Um, this works with Hrothgorn automatically,
Yeah.
which is really good. Um,
Yeah, basically like a double snare on Hrothgorn. That actually could be really good.
yeah. Um, but I also think that a lot of the Dire Chasm and Beastgrave stuff have the hunter or quarry keyword.
Yeah,
Um,
I
and then
agree.
if there is a far list and they hit the strongest warbands, Koff, Mala, Crusher, Hrothgorn, Koff, then we should see less of them in the future.
Yeah, that's true. The it's just probably a question of whether or not you take this and snare and lethal ward because we have that one back. So,
Well, I think
um,
you do if you take Unexpected Pitfall.
yeah, yeah, it makes that better too.
I think you
Yeah,
100% do.
yeah, I like it.
But I think the only deck I'm auto including this in is an aggressive Hrothgorn.
I agree. The next one is Suffocating Heat. Each time a fighter makes a move action, give that fighter 1 hunger counter after that action. And then it also gives the effect -1 move from each fighter with 1 or more hunger counters to a minimum of 0. -1 wounds from each fighter with 3 or more hunger counters to a minimum of 1. This effect persists until the end of the round. So that's interesting.
This just shuts down Crimson Court.
Kind of. Yeah. I mean, it makes their bloodthirst a lot worse for that round.
You can give them 0 move
Um,
for the round and make
yeah.
them all 3 wounds, I guess.
Yeah. Just very situational, and it's not really good for it's not really good against an enemy that doesn't already have hunger counters, because if the enemy doesn't have any, then they just get one every time they move, but that's it.
Yeah.
um, so interesting. Yeah, interesting counterplay to vampires, I guess.
Yeah, I think Prince Duval kind of says it best. Just how deep do the mountain's roots go? Like he's just this definitely just highlights that this is an anti Crimson Court card. Unfortunately, as Jonathan mentioned, hunger is in short supply outside of the warband.
Yeah. The next one is Too Hungry to Care. The first fighter to make an attack action in the next activation is considered to have one additional supporting fighter for each of their hunger counters during that attack action. Pretty good for vampires, I guess.
I
It's
think
okay.
so. I,
Yeah.
I think if you bloodthirst, yeah. The
Yeah.
interesting thing is that like hunger, which should be an aggressive mechanic, is actually used in their passive strategy. And when they play aggressive, they try to inspire.
Yeah.
So worst case scenario, because you get the hungers at the beginning of the round, um, you can get a support.
Yeah. And the way with the change to supports, um, you'll always get that buff. So I think it's okay. Like if you have a 3 sword attack, it goes from 58 to 74 with 1 support and 84 with 2 support. So I think if you have 2 hunger, this is a great card. If you have 1, it's pretty decent. So I think it's something they think about. The next one is Amber
That's an
Realmstone.
upgrade.
Oh yeah, so that was it for the gambits. Did you have a favorite?
Probably claim to domination or heated instinct. I think for me.
Yeah, I think Heated Instinct is a cool one. Um, for me, it might be Fury Barbs, I guess, if I can't pick those two.
You can pick whatever you want. I guess I did cheat
um,
by picking two, so I'll just pick claim to domination. How
that's
about that?
okay. I guess I like Too Hungry to Care for the vampires too. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, and I guess we might see some Savage contests. So um,
I think so.
yeah,
I like the gambits in this set. I think you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 10, which are like I think are
yeah,
worth considering at some point.
and I'd probably consider the Predatory Impulse for Skaven. It also lets you choose a friendly fighter, um,
Very good point.
which would inspire them. Although the way that the Inspire FAQ and rules work is that it would inspire them after they make the attack, but you don't usually care about that. So um, might be a alternate to Spectral Wings or something in Skaven. So
That's a very good
um,
point.
yeah, so I guess we can go to the upgrades.
Right on. Okay, 10 cards left. Amber Realmstone. It's a Realmstone. Um,
Whatever that is.
whatever, whatever these random keywords.
This one is
Um,
Amber.
yes. When this fighter's attack action takes the target out of action, put 1 amber counter on this card. The following cumulative effects apply depending on the number of counters on this card. If you have 1 counter, you get +2 move. If you have 2 counters, you have 1 damage, one damage to this fighter's +1 damage to this fighter. So grade strength.
Mm-hmm.
If you have 3, you lose a wound.
Yeah. Um, I guess I just don't really like this one. It's a little slow. You have to get the kill, and then if you get too many kills, it gives you a downside.
I still think it's great on Mollog.
Maybe. Yeah. I just feel like he'd rather just have the 1 damage, or he's okay with just having the 2 move from other cards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just assuming that like maybe this card is more viable when Afar comes out. Like it's
Maybe.
not the go-to right now, but I mean even Hrothgorn, the +2 move is nice, the damage is nice, and like there are so many cards that can, like with Hrothgorn, you just stick Tough and Hide on him, you're fine. Um,
Maybe. Yeah.
so I definitely think it has some play with the big boys.
Yeah. They definitely get the most use out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Next card is Armor of Confidence. It's almost as good as the real thing. +1 defense if you have the primacy token.
Yeah. This is an interesting one. +1 defense is okay, but I don't like the primacy token condition very much. Particularly just because even if you're really good at getting primacy, it's going to go away at the beginning of the round or the end of the round, and then you might just get hit, but that way. So I think you think about it if you're doing a real primacy build, probably with Madmob, but I I won't be surprised if it doesn't end up making the cut.
Yeah, I see your point. I do think this is mad on Crush's Mollog and Hrothgorn
Yeah.
because there are three warbands that can get primacy often,
Mm-hmm.
and Hrothgorn on 3 block, Mollog on 2 block, or any of the Crushes on 2 block kind of stresses me out a little bit. So
That's true. Yeah, it is.
I could see some of that.
It is pretty good for them. Yeah. Yeah.
And even Tuftdaga and Hedkrakka, they can go to 3 dodge.
Yeah.
Pretty gnarly.
That's true. That's
Pretty
true.
gnarly stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as always, Mog is going to get the most out of any upgrade. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Next card, Biting Axe. Very cool card art. Um, Melee attack, so range 1, 2 smash, 2 damage. On a critical hit, this attack action has +1 damage.
Yeah. I mean, this is a decent attack action upgrade. I don't think it's really anything to write home about, but it's it's not bad.
Would you take this in like in a warband, trying to look for weapon caddies, like Skaven,
I think I would
or are you still
consider
sticking
it.
with the Soul Tooth and Amberbone weapons?
Yeah, so I think that's the problem with it, is that if you compare this directly to the Soul Tooth Dagger, the Soul Tooth Dagger is just better. Because it hits on the Fury, it's going to crit a little bit more, and it'll just better. Um, so you'd want to have to take both, and I think there probably would be a situation where the weapon selection is such that you'd want to do that, but I don't think that's where we are now, right now, with the Amberbone weapons.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I agree.
Yeah.
The next card is another attack action upgrade. It's called Famine's Ferocity.
Mm-hmm.
It's range 3, hits on focus, and deals 1 damage. You can do an extra damage to this attack action if this fighter has 3 or more hunger counters.
Yeah. I guess you would probably know more than I do. Do you think there's any kind of viability with um, like a Curse Breaker Hunter build? And even then, I guess they don't really care about this weapon, do they? Because they're
That's
level
exactly
1.
so you're exactly right. I think the only two
Yeah.
warbands that have a good chance with hunger right now, and you could maybe do Eyes of the Nine and loop Curse Breakers and Eyes of the Nine in the same bucket, is those two, and then Crimson Court. The challenge
Yeah.
is the Crimson Court wizards are level 1. You can get to level 2, I think, with Blood Chalice,
Right.
which is cool. And then you can and then this kind of sees some play, but I think it's suboptimal to include both in your deck.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
this
then
is
with
basically worse than Curse Breaker and Vortimus's attack anyway.
correct, yeah.
So, yeah.
So just unfortunately, it's a cool idea, but maybe not worth it in
Yeah.
application. Maybe if it was like range 1, 2 damage or 3 damage, that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
If it was already 2 and then it went up to 3, then maybe we would be talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you could like put this on Stormsire, give him Tempest Might, which would put it at potentially 4,
Yeah.
and then Glory Seeker and Fighter's Ferocity, and you can do like 6 damage.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be interesting.
And you could probably do what's that card called? A Primal Power in there as well. You get 1 reroll. You roll in 4 dice. You're
Yeah.
probably gonna you could one shot Rockport from 3 hexes away. It's pretty cool
Yeah.
to think about.
Yeah. I think it's just a little bit too hard with the way that the hunger counters work right now. So
Correct. Yeah, that was all a hypothetical with a card that doesn't exist.
yeah. Yeah. We can dream.
We can indeed. Next card, Hunger for Success. After each activation in which this fighter made 1 or more attack actions, give this fighter 1 hunger counter.
Mhm.
Reaction. After this fighter's failed attack action, remove 3 of this fighter's hunger counters. If you do, this fighter makes an attack action. If the attack fails, deal 1 damage to this fighter. What do you think?
Yeah. I think I like this one for I think you can play it in the vampires, obviously. I think they're pretty good at it. I also think maybe this is a card that you just throw on Mollog or Hrothgorn, particularly if you like have other hunger cards like Hungry Advance, or you're trying to trigger like ferocious resistance and things like that. If this goes
Yeah,
out on early, like you might actually get a couple rerolls or attacks on somebody, which could be pretty good. Um, like Hrothgorn, who has his ranged attack too, so he can just shoot, get a hunger counter, shoot again, get another one, and then you know do all that.
after a
But
while, he's just getting
yeah,
rerolls.
eventually he's gonna get rerolls.
Yeah, and when Hunter's Talisman comes out, the propensity to miss is low.
Yeah, I think that like right now there's just so many good upgrades that maybe that's not the best option. But it's interesting, and I think for vampires it is. If you're playing a vampire deck that has a lot of ways to give your own fighters hunger, then you might throw it in and get an extra attack off. But um, I don't know. Hopefully it doesn't fail. I guess do the damage. But
Yeah, I like this card. It reminds me of that Madmob card that we talked about,
hmm
where you can kind of just get another chance at making an attack action. Um, but again, only for Crimson Court. Um,
yeah,
I think the ideas that you presented are definitely viable and they work, but maybe ultimately not efficient in deck
yeah,
building because this is just Crimson Court mostly are aggressive, and getting to reroll that attack can make or break your game sometimes. So, um,
yeah,
and I don't think they mind taking 1 damage because they're at 4.
yeah. Probably not. I mean, if it's worth a risk, I think, to make an
Yeah,
attack again. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's where I'm at with it. So, um, again, vampires faction kit is like 50 cards now.
Yeah.
Next card is Hunger Siphon. At the beginning of each round, give this fighter 1 hunger counter. When this fighter is activated, pick 1. Remove 1 hunger counter from each adjacent fighter. Then give an equal number of hunger counters to this fighter. Or remove all of this fighter's hunger counters and give an equal number of hunger counters to one adjacent fighter. So essentially, to in layman's terms, every time you activate, you get a hunger counter, or you can remove a hunger counter um, from each adjacent fighter and then transfer them to you, or you can take them off yourself and transfer them to a different adjacent fighter.
Yeah.
And you also get a hunger counter at the beginning of every round as well.
Yeah, it's not really clear if you have the option to do this or not. It looks like you may have to pick one. I don't know what
Yeah,
you
it
do if
doesn't
you
say
don't
pick
have an
up to 1.
adjacent player
That just
or
doesn't work, I
adjacent fighter.
guess.
I guess it just does nothing. Um,
There's no eligible target.
yeah, I just can't think of too many situations where I want this effect. Um, and I think there are better ways to get hunger given to your fighters. So, um, but it's an interesting effect there. Yeah, I guess you'd have to be doing some kind of build where you really wanted to consolidate um, hunger on one specific fighter. So
Well, so I think the Crimson Court do that because they have that passive build we've been referring to. And I
yeah,
think there is a 2 glory end phase card that like rewards you, I think, for having like 10 hunger on friendly fighters.
yeah, yeah. But this doesn't really help with that, other than to consolidate. So I don't know. I mean, it's
Well, you're getting an extra one every round, right?
oh,
So
that's
in
true.
theory,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get 3 more in the game.
yeah. And you can do the other card where every time you gain one, you gain two, and then I guess if you grabbed two, you would gain four or whatever. So I mean,
Yeah,
there's probably something. There's probably
exactly.
some use for it. It's just super niche and only for Crimson Court.
Yeah, because you would only get you couldn't really use this in the first round, right? So if you get the what's that Crimson Court card where it's like Ananias like eating a bunch of meat, um, whatever the name of that card is, it
The one that gives you extra hunger.
yeah, the one every time you gain one you gain additional. So over the course of just 2 rounds, you can get 8 extra glory
Yeah.
or extra hunger, excuse me,
Yeah,
which is
Glutton for
insane.
Gore, I think it's called.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I literally just I went to paththeglorypodcast.com and found it. But yes, so I think it's pretty gnarly for
Oh, and actually,
the
it says
hunger.
that many plus one. So I think you may still only get one extra, but you get one at the beginning, and then you get one extra anytime you gain some. So I think that's still pretty good.
When this fighter is given one of our hunger counters. So yeah, every time you get one, you get 2 because of this
Yeah,
card.
yeah, yeah.
So you'd
It's
get
pretty
you'd
good.
get 4, right? And then you get 4 again. in this third round.
Well, no, I think like if you gained 3, you would just gain 1 extra one.
Right, but you gain 1 from your ability,
Right.
and then you would gain
So
1
that's 2.
from the card.
Yeah.
So then that would be 4.
Right, but you could also gain more than what I was saying is you can gain more than 1 from the card because if you're adjacent to 2 different fighters, you can get 1 from each. And
Oh, I
originally
see
I
what you're
was
saying.
thinking that you get 2
Yeah.
extra, but it would just be 1 extra. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if somebody can make a deck where this is useful.
I mean, I've seen some like lists floating around, and
Yeah.
it is concerning. But I mean, it's a high risk, high reward play, right? Like, so
Yeah. And I don't know if people really have that much trouble getting to 10 right now anyway. So I guess it's just a
yeah.
question of if it's worth a
How
slot.
quickly they can do it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, last 4 cards here. Savage Agility is the next one.
Yeah.
This fighter is a hunter. Reaction after a failed range 1 or range 2 attack action that targets this fighter, deal 1 damage to the attacker.
Yeah. Um I don't know. I don't think this is a great card. I think you put this on someone and then they just kind of get ignored, which I guess can be useful. But and also if they really need to die, then the opponent will just attack you anyway. So I don't know. I think it's a little too situational, but it's a interesting effect.
It is interesting. I think you can stick this on like a obviously Hrothgorn or Malog because sometimes you will miss,
Yeah.
and then it just punishes you even more for going after them, which sucks. But I think you could take like sticking this on Autopodal, right, is interesting. You
Mm-hmm.
can stick this on like a Ripa maybe,
Yeah.
to make it even less likely to take him out. The cool thing is it makes you a hunter, so like you can stick this on like the Briar Queen or someone else as well. So
Yeah.
lots of opportunity, but you're probably right in that it doesn't make the top 10 if you're playing with 10 cards, which you should be.
Yeah, I think so. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Silent Sword is a silent relic. So this fighter
Mm-hmm.
is a quarry, range 1, 3, smash 2 damage. So pretty good attack profile.
Yeah.
If this fighter is a quarry, which they will be if they have this card, and in no one's territory, it does +1 damage to this attack action. So you can do 3 damage, which 3 smash 3 damage is really nice. This attack action has ensnare if this fighter has 2 or more silent relics. The only silent relic that we've seen is the silent helm, which is pretty neat as well. But this card alone as a weapon is great, and if you are careful with your positioning, it can be insane.
Yeah. I agree.
Very cool card. Soul Tooth Net. This fighter is a hunter, range 2, 3, fury 1 damage. If this attack action succeeds, give the target 1 charge token. You can reroll 1 dice in the attack roll if the target has 1 or more move and or charge tokens. After making this attack action, discard this card. So you get 1 shot and slapping a charge token on somebody. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean the interesting thing is we already have this card in Barblade and Net.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Now, does Barblade and Net only work on successful attack action?
yes, but the difference is that Barblade and Net can only be applied to a hunter, whereas this can be applied to anyone and then makes you a hunter. So
That's true.
it's even better. But the warbands that have already been taking the net, maybe they take both now, which is pretty interesting against warbands like Mollog or Krusha's, something like that. I mean, I think a good Soul Tooth, or in this case, Soul Tooth net, hitting once might win you a game. I mean, I think it's won me games before with the other one. So having 2 of them is just another chance to lock up an important fighter. So I think it's
Yeah,
pretty
if you
good.
can shut down like a Hrothgorn like 2 activation or 2 rounds in a row,
Yeah,
you just win the game.
I know that would be
Pretty
infuriating.
silly. And then you
Yeah,
can take Energy Drain as well, which that card has won me tournaments. And
yeah, yeah,
you can do some serious fun. So I think this is a good card. I do feel like the one and done is concerning.
Yeah.
But I mean, 3 Fury is pretty accurate. And I guess if you really want to, you can like throw a victimize with it as well, or something.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I've found that like when you need this card to work, if it does, like it's totally worth it.
Yeah,
And then a lot of the time, because it's range 2, you can also be charging onto an objective or something like that. Um, so I think it works best in the larger war bands that are trying to hold objectives and um, may not have great attacks anyway. So
yeah, it's
I
interesting.
I think this will have a little bit of an impact, and even if people don't double up, because maybe there's not room in the upgrades, now this is a card that anyone can take. So I think we're going to see this a lot more than we were already seeing the Barblade in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's open to it's not restricted to hunters, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a good card and can be really powerful. So last card here, Spike Glass. This is how uh, I feel bad for. That's how he feels every time he looks in the mirror. It just breaks. Um,
I wouldn't have thought you could see him in a mirror. I thought that was the vampire thing, but
I don't know if it's Warhammer vampires though.
I
You know,
guess their mirrors are extra mirrory.
well, they're full of spite apparently.
This one is, yeah.
That's true. Reaction. After an attack action that targets this fighter, pick one of the attacker's upgrades. Discard that card and this card.
Yeah. Um, I think I like this one. I like the design of it. I guess you could take it on a big fighter that you know is going to take a bunch of hits and not die. Uh, I guess the problem with it is that the opponent, has to kind of go into it. But you may sort of be able to control that if it's the fighter that's obviously going to be the target. I can't imagine it makes the cut right now, but it's a cool card.
Yeah, something to consider in the future with a different set of card pool, maybe. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's. It definitely makes you think, which I think is important. But ultimately, like, I think the Harrows have a card that does it better. Like they have a dagger
Yeah.
that, like, if they make they can just break one of your cards and they don't even take it.
Yeah, I think it's an
Um,
upgrade that gives them an action that'll let them break a card. Yeah. I've
yeah,
tried it before, but it just never comes out when I need it. So,
yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like, I like the idea of being able to break upgrades, especially your opponent's upgrades.
yeah.
But in application, I'm not sure if this is that efficient, which is
Yeah.
probably a good thing.
Yeah, maybe. I think there's a better gambit if you really want to do this kind of thing. I know Grimwatch have a faction one, and then there's a universal that if a friendly fighter dies, you can destroy an upgrade on an enemy fighter within a few hexes.
Mm,
Um, I think that was a Arena Mortis card. Um, so I think I prefer those, but it's an interesting option to have. It'd be funny to just take a deck with all of these cards and see how good that is, but probably not very
yeah, you could just shut
good.
your fighter down, shut
Yeah.
your opponent's fighter down. Well, yeah, that's interesting. Okay, well, that does it for the upgrades here.
Yeah.
Um, I think some cool tools, some cool hunger stuff.
Yeah.
We got some realm stones too, or at least one of them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think my favorite is probably the Silent Sword. It's
Yeah,
just better than Swordbreaker, which is already a fine card. Makes you a quarry, which can be good. And if you happen to be able to get into no one's territory, then that's really good too. We don't have 3 relics yet, so I guess we'll have to see on the the ensnare bonus. But
yeah,
um, or so we have enough for the 2. We don't have the 3 we need for the crown to activate. So I guess people have been taking the crown, I think, or the helm.
the helm.
Yeah, the
Mm-hmm.
helm. People have been taking the helm already, and that one needs 3 to do its bonus. So I guess maybe you take both of them, but I don't know. But to me, that's clearly the best upgrade. I'm not real, and that in the net, I guess. But
Yeah, I like armor of confidence, and I think I like hunger for success. I think those are pretty cool. They both have to do with seasonal mechanics, primacy and hunger, but I think if you're tapping into one of them,
yeah,
or maybe in Crimson Court's case, both of them, um, you can reap some advantages. So I really, really like that. I think.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Well, overall, 30 cards, some really good ones in here, some okay ones, and some ones that require a little bit of extra thought. But I think overall, similar concept to the actual faction cards from Hedkrakka's Madmob is that all of these cards are playable, except
Yeah.
maybe for Famine's Ferocity. Um, aside from that, I think there's good value here. This is great for Vanguard, some really cool Vanguard cards. And hopefully, whenever we get a far list, you'll see the stock in a lot of these cards rise as well. So that's the
Yeah.
important thing about the game is as the game is releasing through an expansion, through a season, um, as we add more cards, it's important to restrict cards as well. So, um,
Yeah, I think
it
so. That we actually did have a Patreon question that's along these lines as well from Compaq. Says, after seeing the cards, do you think the meta is going to shift significantly, or do we need to wait for a far?
I don't think the meta is going to shift that much
Yeah.
because the rich just get richer. And while like the mid tier warbands do get richer, they're not as rich as the rich. And then I think the warbands that are struggling continue to struggle. So pretty
Yeah.
much capitalism.
Sure. Sure. And I think it's also important to note that the release schedule this time is very different, where we're getting like one release and then we're getting another release, but it's one more band at a time instead of two. So each change should be a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
I do think that the quarry objective holding strategy got a lot better. I think that's probably the biggest change um, over this release. Is the We got the silent sword, which has is an important quarry upgrade, I think, and then um, the objective that you like, the lion weight. So I think that strategy got notably better. But everything else is probably just like side grades or the occasional, you know, uh, occasional upgrade.
Yeah. Again, yeah, I think you're right. I think we need a far list. Otherwise, some of these cards won't see the light of day. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so,
that's true.
regardless, that pretty much concludes the review. Big shout out to Games Workshop for sending us preview copies. Um, unfortunately,
Yeah.
while we can't talk about the physical contents in the set, Warhammer Community did spoil all these cards, or preview them rather, on their
Yeah.
website. So we are able to talk about public information there. So I think that covers it for me. Anything else you want to add before you wrap it off, Jonathan?
No, I think that is going to be it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, thank you to our patrons. If you'd like to join our current patrons, you can do so at patreon.com/path to glory. You can find all of our blog content at pathtoglorypodcast.com. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, let us know on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord at Path to Glory Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And as always, thanks for listening, and we wish you the best of luck on your path to glory.
So if the sword is silent, does it make noise when you kill someone?
They probably make noise, but it's probably silent.
So what if you have like a silent shield? Does like when stuff hits it, does it just not make noise?
I'm gonna go with yes. It's very quiet. You hit a silent sword with a silent shield, and there's no sound.
But what if you have the silent shield and they have like a regular sword? Is there sound?
There's half of a sound.
I don't know, man.
The sword makes a sound, maybe. It goes. Wah.
But the shield. Oh, I guess what
Shield
you're saying
shield
is the
doesn't make
sword
any
will
sound.
continue to make the noises, like a
Yeah.
Okay, I see you. What's your physics degree?
It's
Okay,
just
all right.
silent. I have a silent relics physics degree.
In
Yes.
silentology. You have
Oh,
a degree in silentology.
wow. All right.
For those of you missing the puns, boom, baby. All right.